Susie, Claudine, how are you?
Hi, great. How are you?
Good. I'm glad that you got those beautiful flowers that I sent you.
Did you notice those back there? No, I didn't. Thank you.
So, Susie, you live at Cogir of Edmonds in Washington. You
Ed-
picked a beautiful place, Susie. Why Washington?
I moved to Washington after graduate school, and because I went to the University of Washington graduate school in Seattle, and then I moved to Olympia a couple of times. I moved to Edmonds. No, then I moved to Everett. I worked in Everett for my working years. I built my working years.
And Claudine, you're a friend of
Yes.
Susie.
She's a very good friend of mine. She and her husband, Doug, have been helping me a great deal.
We've been friends for a long time. Yeah, since 1990s when my husband Doug and I moved here from New Mexico, and Susie was our first friend and neighbor 3 houses down.
Oh, isn't that great? And now you get to visit Susie and continue your awesome friendship at Cogir.
Yes, exactly. I enjoy visiting her here very much.
And then Edmonds, I want to say north of Seattle, correct?
Right.
Yes.
On the beautiful Sound. So, Susie, tell me about you, because from what I understand, and I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, you are enjoying one incredible life, and you've been involved in so many different things. Susie, tell me more about you.
Most of my life, I've been involved in environmental things. As a member of the Filtuca Audubon, which is in Snoqualmie, and I grew up in California, in Palo Alto, because my dad went to Stanford. He came out of the military, so I'm a World War II baby. And I lived there, grew up and went to school there, and then I left California, and I lived in San Francisco for a brief time, and I got my bachelor's degree at San Francisco State in acting. I have a degree in drama. Then I went to the University of Washington for the School of Social Work at the University of Washington.
So, you are a Washington Husky through and through. And you've stayed in the Washington area your entire life?
I stayed here because I got a job at DSHS.
So were you looking at being an actress? Is that what drama school was all about?
I thought that's what I thought I was going to do, and I've never made very much more money acting, I'll tell you.
And life takes crazy turns. And Claudine, being Susie's friend, I've heard how involved Susie has been in the community. Talk about that.
I always get very involved in whatever I do, particularly if it's going to help people in some way. Some people in some ways. And for example, I worked for DSHS, which is Department of Social and Health Services for State of Washington, and I was the regional administrator in Everett for developmental disabilities for my working life, most of my working life. Long story of how I got to come working there from going to graduate school. But I went to graduate school in Washington, at Seattle, and I got interested in the field of community organization. And so I basically learned everything I've used as an adult. I learned in graduate school how to organize people to community organization. And my degree in social work isn't about counseling or anything like that. I'm a lousy counselor, but I could organize anything. And I did, so it was the first arrest of my life. Since particularly since I moved here. So, in Evans.
Susie, it sounds like you've enjoyed a life and still continue to enjoy a life of helping others.
It's been interesting. I've done quite a few interesting things. I've lived all over the world. Through, I can't get very involved in one thing at a time. Mostly one thing sequentially. I got involved with the Earthwatch, which is an environmental organization, and I worked on Earthwatch projects all over the world. So for my own fun, I volunteered and paid for to go to different places in the world working on environmental projects.
Really? Like, what were some of the interesting places that you traveled to as a volunteer?
Well, the last place I went to was in Colombia, South America, and which changed my life entirely because I met a family down there, and they've all lived at my house, and I'm part of that family. I've been for many, 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 many years. And I was also in Cameroon, working on a project in Cameroon, Africa. Before that, I was working on a place in Israel.
Israel. Susie, you've been everywhere.
Yeah, so I've been interesting places. I chose them because Earthwatch had projects at them, and I paid good money to be in their projects, and I did research. So I spent a lot of my adult life doing that for fun. That's my idea of fun.
Well, it sounds fascinating, and I can see how that would be fun.
It was. So living in other parts of the world, and I'm glad I did. Up until I graduated high school, I'd never been in anywhere but Palo Alto.
And you mentioned that you were a war baby.
So I was born in 1940.
You were probably old enough to remember maybe some of the ships, maybe post-World War II, coming in and out of the Bay Area, correct?
Yes. Well, one of them brought my father-in-law because he was in North Africa in the Navy. I lived with him and grew up there. And I remember going on his ship as a child. Don't drink too much soup because it cooks too much pepper in it.
Do you remember what ship your father was on, the name of it?
The O'Hara.
You know, the Navy, just being a history fan, Susie, the reason I asked, the Navy was so instrumental in Northern Africa. And everybody talks about, you know, General Patton and the Army going into North Africa. And it's true, they were incredible as well. But the Navy is the one that secured the perimeter and supplied all of those troops. And it was a dangerous mission in those days because the Germans and others knew that if they cut off that supply to the American troops, we'd be in trouble. So your father, wow, that's
The supply officer for the ship.
Oh, Susie, I'm sure your father told you, but during World War II and that time, that's when those U-boats from Germany would patrol the Atlantic and areas trying to keep supplies from going into North Africa. Your father must have had some incredible stories.
But like many fathers, they didn't have, I don't have any war stories. Lots of stories from everything else I've done, but I don't remember my father talking about the war, the war. He didn't want to talk about the war.
World War II, that was pretty common. They didn't really talk about it quite as much. So I have to ask you, Susie, why Washington? Why didn't you stay and do, I mean, you have Stanford right there. You have, you know, University of California, Berkeley right there in the Bay Area, San Jose State. There's a ton of colleges in that area.
I did my bachelor's at San Francisco State.
Yep, San Francisco State. So why did you go to Washington after that?
I came to Washington to go to graduate school in social work. By then I gotten interested in helping people, I think, and in organizing things.
Do you enjoy that, public speaking?
Well, I'm not shy. I'm not a shy person.
Susie, tell me about Cogir of Edmonds. Why is it special to you?
I have been here since I got out of the hospital. One of my old roommates' mother, she was Yazzy's mother, lived here, and so at Cogir in Edmonds. And so they found this place. They called me and they told me I was coming to Cogir.
And Claudine, when you visit your friend Susie at Cogir, I know that they have so many activities. I mean, what do you guys do together? Do you watch movies together? Do you play games together? Do you eat in the dining room together? What do you do?
Stephanie brings in wonderful programs and wonderful people to play and make music for us. Because music has always been an interest of mine. And she brings in all these wonderful people, and they sing and play the piano for us. And I haven't missed any programs that I think that she's had men for since I've been here. So then I've been here since August, I think. I think she came in August.
What's your favorite food there in the dining room? What do they make for you?
Lots of good stuff, but
Fish, you like the fish?
I like fish. Yeah, I really like fish. We had a wonderful Christmas dinner. Wonderful Christmas dinner.
Well, Susie, if you live on Puget Sound and you don't like fish, that would be a problem.
That would be a problem. I do like fish.
Well, hey, it's wonderful talking to you, and I'm glad that you received the flowers that I sent you. Claudine, thank you for pointing those out.
You're welcome. You're beautiful. Hard to miss.
And my best to both of you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.